Ever heard about the landlord who decided to remove the porch because the tenant refused a rent increase? Now that's a step too far, literally. Imagine coming home from a long day at work only to find your front porch has vanished into thin air. This isn't a magic trick, folks. It's a tale of landlord-tenant disputes taken to an extreme. Our story features a tenant as stubborn as a mule who wouldn't budge on a proposed rent hike, and a landlord with a temperament as fiery as a jalapeno who decided that if he couldn't increase the rent, he'd decrease the porch. A drastic measure indeed, but it serves to illustrate the lengths some people will go to in the face of disagreement. This tale of the disappearing porch is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the complex world of landlord-tenant relationships. So moving past the case of the disappearing porch, let's delve into the world of rent disputes and the rights of landlords and tenants. Now, it's not every day that your landlord removes parts of your home, but rent increases, those are a common affair. Rent increase disputes are as frequent as the morning coffee and just as bitter. They're the unavoidable dance between landlords and tenants, a tango that can leave both parties stepping on each other's toes. But what if I told you that there are laws to keep this dance from turning into a full-blown wrestling match? For example, did you know that in most states, landlords must give tenants at least 30 days notice before increasing rent? That's right. No one can just spring a rent hike on you like a surprise party you didn't ask for. But wait, there's more. Some cities have added another layer of protection for tenants in the form of rent control laws. These laws limit how much landlords can increase rent, ensuring that you don't wake up one day to find your rent has skyrocketed like a tech stock in the 2020s. Now let's not forget about the landlords. Yes, they might seem like the villains in this tale, but often they're just trying to keep up with increasing property taxes, maintenance costs, and possibly their own mortgage payments. A rent increase can be a lifeline for them, a necessary adjustment to stay afloat in an ever-changing market. But what happens when this necessary adjustment meets resistance? Well, that's where the ruckus begins. Disputes can lead to strained relationships, legal battles, and in extreme cases, eviction, a result no one wants. And yet in the midst of this turmoil, there's a silver lining. Knowledge is power. Understanding the laws and regulations surrounding rent increases can help navigate these choppy waters. As a tenant, being aware of your rights can protect you from unjust increases. And as a landlord, knowing the legalities can save you from potential lawsuits. While rent increases can be a heavy burden, knowing your rights can make the weight a little lighter. So, your rent's going up and you're not thrilled about it. What can you do? Well, buckle up, because the ride to rental resolution is about as smooth as a roller coaster. But don't worry, you've got your trusty companion knowledge by your side. Let's start with negotiation. You might think, negotiate with my landlord? You're kidding, right? No, I'm not. As shocking as it might seem, landlords are people too. They might even have a heart. Sometimes, all it takes is a well-worded letter or a polite conversation to make them reconsider. Now, if you're less of a sweet talker and more of a legal eagle, there's always the option of legal action. If a rent increase is not in accordance with local laws or the terms of the lease, you might have grounds to contest it. For instance, some places have rent control laws which limit how much a landlord can raise the rent each year. So if your landlord suddenly decides to double your rent, you might be able to call them out on it. But wait, there's more. You could also just move out. Yes, it's drastic, but sometimes it's the best option. If your landlord is hiking the rent to skyscraper heights, it might be time to find a new place. Remember though, you'll need to provide notice according to the terms of your lease. Of course, all of these options depend on understanding your local laws and the terms of your lease agreement. So before you start drafting that strongly worded letter, or packing up your belongings, make sure you've done your homework. In the end, it all comes down to this. When faced with a rent increase, you have the right to fight. You're not just a tenant, you're a person with rights and options. So stand tall, speak up, and don't let a rent increase knock you down without a fight. Remember, when it comes to rent increases, knowledge is power. But let's not forget about our porch-napping landlords. They've got bills to pay too, right? After all, they didn't snatch that porch for their health. Let's dive into the reasons why landlords might jack up that rent. One big reason might be increased property taxes. Yes, you heard it right. Landlords also have to deal with the tax man. When those property taxes go up, they often have little choice but to pass the cost on to their tenants. Maintenance costs are another biggie. The cost of keeping a property in tip-top shape isn't cheap, and landlords may need to increase rent to cover these expenses. That being said, not all landlords are out to bleed their tenants dry. Many are just trying to keep their heads above water, and open communication can often prevent disputes from escalating. So, whether you're a tenant feeling the pinch of a rent hike or a landlord trying to keep up with rising costs, understanding each other's perspectives can make the whole process a lot less painful.